Hey everyone, I'm rather incoherent. With rotation approaching and Festival of Legends about to drop, a lot's going to be changing, and today I'm going to be going over all the new cards that drop in Festival of Legends, as well as what rotates and change with the core set rotation, and how I think the current meta decks will do, as well as what new decks I think might pop up with all these new cards. I want to start with what by all accounts seems to be the single most powerful card they got, which is Glaivatar. It's a 4-mana 4/2 weapon, death rattle, draw a card, play Outcast cards while equipped to improve. If you have a weapon with upside and the default state of the weapon is already good, that's a good place to be. A 4-mana 4/2 weapon that replaces itself is just a great card for literally every archetype in the game. Tempo wants it for board control, aggro wants it for base damage, control wants it to kill minions. This is already a good card even without synergies, and there are enough Outcast cards that you can reasonably slot in a few to pretty much any deck, and if you build around this, it will be a ridiculously broken card. However, Demon Hunter's losing a lot. We'll cover the rotation in a little while, but I don't know that this is going to be enough to make up for it. However, in the years to come, this is going to be a very iconic card for Demon Hunter, because this is incredibly strong. It fits into literally every archetype they run. The only reason you wouldn't see this if they had some other weapon they had to run instead, and that's currently not the case. And as we just talked about the weapon, let's talk about the Guitar Soloist, a 5-mana 4/3 minion with Battle Cry. If you control no other minions, draw a spell, a minion, and a weapon. That is a really strong effect. It's draw 3 and a tutor effect. If your deck only runs Glaivatar, this is going to draw Glaivatar, or you've already drawn Glaivatar, in which case you're okay not getting value off of this, because it'll be getting the draw you need from the Glaivatar. So that's a really strong effect already, as that it's able to tutor a very powerful weapon, as well as just being draw 3 in general. However, it wants you to have no other minions. So you're either playing an insanely fast deck that's already lost the board at turn 4, and Guitar Soloist is refilling you. There are very few of those that have ever existed. Or more likely, this is going into a slower deck or a more spell-based deck. But again, Spell Demon Hunter requires literally no minions, so you won't be seeing this there either. So this would only be in new decks, basically. There aren't any pre-existing decks that really had room for this, but the pre-existing decks for Demon Hunter are going to get shaken up quite a lot with rotation. I expect this to see some play. It's a very strong card, just requires a certain speed of deck to get it into your deck. If you throw this into a tempo deck, it's a brick until you're losing, or a 5-mana 4/3, which is just about the worst play you can have for 5 mana. And the last part of the weapon package for Demon Hunter this time around is the 4-mana 3/6 minion Instrument Smasher. Whenever your weapon is destroyed, equip a random Demon Hunter weapon. I can't say I'm particularly hot on this. You can use this right as you're swinging a weapon and breaking it, right? 4-mana 3/6, equip a random weapon, that's fine. That's not incredible, though. A 4-mana 3/6 is not... like, it's premium stats, but it's not good stats for an aggressive character, and Demon Hunters tend to be very aggressive. I want to like this card, because it's the sort of card that personally appeals to me. I love the idea of this thing having pseudo-talk, because it'll just keep handing me new guitars to smash. But at the same time, it just doesn't feel good enough right now. It feels like against control decks, this is too slow. Against aggro decks, this is not actually taunt, and nothing else in your deck is either, so this is just going to result in you having weapons you can't leverage because your health is too low. It feels like it doesn't quite have a home despite being strong on paper. I do think the card is strong, I just don't know what deck it could fit into, which means it's not actually strong. I feel so conflicted about Instrument Smasher, man. The dream with Instrument Smasher is definitely to play going down swinging after Instrument Smasher. 5 mana, give your hero plus to attack an immune this turn, then attack each enemy minion. Every time your weapon breaks, he gives you a new one. With stuff like Glaivatar, you'll be drawing cards. With stuff like Eldrazi Warblades, you'll be healing yourself. This is a very strong card, especially in conjunction with the Eye of Shadow. The Eye of Shadow is a 2-mana 2/3 that just gives your hero lifesteal. It's also a demon, not that that matters too much. If anything, it being a demon is probably something you'll notice negatively rather than positively, because it can interrupt your demon synergies. But it is a very strong card. It allows that other signature spell, Going Down Swinging, to essentially be Reno Jackson if you can put this in play too. And if you have this or Instrument Smasher in play and you play the other one plus Going Down Swinging, it's essentially a full board clear plus a full reset of your life. So there are appeals to these cards, but fitting them all in the same deck is where it starts to get clunky. And I think Instrument Smasher is the one that usually won't make the cut. I can see a deck running Eye of Shadow, I can see a deck running Going Down Swinging. Like, this legendary spell is not something that Demon Hunters are immediately attracted to, but it's strong enough that they will still care about it. However, I don't think Instrument Smasher fits smoothly enough into any other archetype that I can really include it. Now, outside of the weapon package, we have a rush package as well. We also have one stranded card, Taste of Chaos. This is just deal 2 damage to a minion for 1, it's a fel spell, and as finale, discover a fel spell. That would be absolutely fantastic if Jace were still in the format. Bad news, he's rotating, he's from Alterac Valley. So if you're not duplicating all these fel spells, how good is deal 2 damage to a minion, discover a spell? It's pretty good, to be honest. If you're playing a slower control Demon Hunter, I could see this fitting into a deck. But I don't know why you would be playing control Demon Hunter with the current set of cards available to them. They don't have any control win conditions. I think my final verdict here is that this doesn't really fit cleanly into Spell Demon Hunter because the deck has too many cards competing with this, and that it doesn't really see play anywhere, despite being, on the surface, a good card. Which leaves us with the Rush package of cards. We're getting Security, Snakebite, and Rush the Stage, as well as the legendary Halveria Darkraven. In my opinion, the reason to run this archetype is Snakebite. It's a 2-mana 1/1 Rush Naga. Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each minion that died this turn. Thanks to stuff like Coordinated Strike, Security, Feldorei Warband, there are plenty of ways for you to generate a bunch of dudes. This also includes your enemy minions that die. So you could reasonably be playing this as a 2-mana 4/4, 2-mana 5/5 with Rush, and that's not a particular high roll, that's like the expectation, it's just not actually a 2-drop. I don't think this is good enough on its own to make you play a mid-range or rush-centric Demon Hunter, but I do think it's actually a good card that would easily fit in that deck if it does exist. Security will look immediately familiar. It's 2 mana, summon 2/1 Illidari with Rush, Outcast, summon 1 more. So it's Coordinated Strike for 1 less, but you have to get Outcast, otherwise it also gives 1 less Illidari. I think that's just a straight upgrade over Coordinated Strike, to be honest. I think this is unambiguously a fine card. Coordinated Strike isn't getting run, but if this is synergizing what you're doing, if you need Outcast cards, if you need Rush cards, both of which are archetypes for Demon Hunter, then you probably want to run this, especially at only 2 mana. So I do think this will see play. I don't know if the deck it sees play in will actually be good, but this will definitely be getting run in these new mid-range Demon Hunters that are trying to use Outcast and Rush synergies. And I think the big reason to run a Rush deck is the 3-mana card, Rush the Stage, draw 2 Rush minions, they cost 1 less. I mean, that's just really good. That's Arcane Intellect, but thanks to the mana cheat, it's effectively for 1, and it's also tutoring specific minions out of your deck, and that's really, really strong. This is the big reason to run a Rush deck right now, but it also creates a problem. The more Rush minions you put in your Rush deck, the less good Rush the Stage gets. Because at only 2 minions, this is guaranteed to pull Illidari Inquisitor out of your deck and make it cost 7, and that card's a win condition. And then as you increase to like 10 Rush minions, now your odds of getting cards are much more random. So you want to strike a balance between having enough minions to do what you want with your archetype, and not making Rush the Stage super unreliable for drawing your cards. You also want enough that Rush the Stage isn't reasonably bricking. You don't want to draw Illidari Inquisitor, Rush the Stage on turn 1 and concede on turn 2. There's still one more Rush card in their legendary Halveria Darkraven. She's a 4-mana 4/3 Rush, and after your friendly Rush minions attack, give your minions +1 attack. This card is scary. And the reason this card is scary is because you can do something like, on turn 6, you play Halveria Darkraven, Security, you attack with 4 Rush minions, and give all your previously existing minions +4 attack. Not your previously existing Rush minions. Just every minion you have on the board would get +4 attack if you were to use Security and Halveria and attack with those cards and those tokens. So Halveria just being in your deck essentially means your opponent has to play around Bloodlust. However, I don't think Halveria is a good card. Generally speaking, she'll far more often just be played out as a 4-mana 4/3 Rush that dies immediately, and maybe gives your board a small pump on attack. I don't think she's bad, but I think the dream for her is so much slower than it wants to be. I think the biggest thing she does is impact how your opponent perceives the threat level of your board, and it might be important enough to run her just for that to happen. But honestly, I view this card as being like synergy-based conditional 7-mana Bloodlust. I don't think as a minion this is nearly good enough, and I think that the boards are able to build to buff up with this after rotation aren't good enough to just be using this because you have a board. Coming over to core set rotation, Demon Hunter is really not losing anything. Corvus Bloodthorn is cool, but he didn't see any play. Sightless Watcher and Chaos Nova again saw no play and are much less interesting cards. Then coming over to the new cards that Demon Hunter's getting, they're adding Kane's Sun Fury back, which is just a terrifying card. 4 mana, 3/5 charge, taunt no longer works, which is just absolutely horrifying. Immolation Aura saw tons of play, Illidari Studies saw tons of play, and in fact, in every Demon Hunter deck I've currently got planned, Illidari Studies is in them. Before we go over to those planned decks though, let's talk about the buffs to cards that are in core. Metamorphosis is down to 1 mana, Rascal Naga up to 1 health, up to 3 health. Ganar Glavesmith also up to 3 health, and I believe Flame Reaper up to 5 attack. I don't see Flame Reaper getting played because of this, nor do I see Ganar Glavesmith as being anything better than it used to be. Like, it's obviously better, but I don't think it's going to determine whether or not you're playing this. I still think it's just, are you an early game burn deck that really cares about this effect? Are you super weapon based? Rascal Naga definitely is a lot stronger now. Having 3 health makes it much more durable, and that's going to be very helpful for something like a rush deck, where you might just be playing this and sacrificing minions and hoping it sticks to the board. Even at 4 mana, Metamorphosis is still pretty slow, but it's definitely less of a bitter pill to swallow at 4 mana than at 5. So on the whole, minor buffs, but buffs nonetheless. First, aggro Demon Hunter as it currently exists is basically just gone. Core cards like Magnifying Glass and Lady Sitheno are sticking around. However, they're losing so much. They're losing Kurtrus, they're losing Fel Barrage, they're losing Metamorphin, Iron Deep Trog, Fury, and Dread Prison Glaive. They are losing so much of their early curve and so much of their finishing power that in their current state, I don't know that aggro Demon Hunter is going to be a super playable deck. It just loses way too much, and what it gets is strong, but not replacements for what it lost, resulting in a very conflicted deck that is short on curve minions and short on finishers. Coming over to Minion Fel Demon Hunter, a little bit below this is an ETC ban that you should care about if you're actually copying the deck, but I'm just going to stop at Jace Darkweaver. The finisher for the deck doesn't exist anymore. And I know you can win games without Jace Darkweaver. They probably involve Kurtrus a lot of the time, who's also leaving though. Both finishers, both of the main finishers this deck is built around, simply do not exist anymore. And that's really bad for a deck. It's not quite automatically destroyed, it's not like Big Mage losing the Parrots, but it's pretty bad, and I would go so far as to say that Fel Demon Hunter is just gone. It's also losing Guild Trader, which is probably the nail in the coffin if there was any debate left to be had. Now, Spell Demon Hunter is where it gets blurry. They're still losing Jace, they're still losing Kurtrus, it's a huge blow to the class. But as for the rest of the deck, yeah, they're losing stuff. They're losing Fury, they're losing Sigil of Alacrity, they're losing Barrage. They definitely have painful losses across the deck, and they lose their main finishers, and that's super painful. But stuff like Deal with the Devil and Mark of Scorn have always been just insanely strong cards, same with Feldorei Warband. These cards are enough to push you to keep trying to play Spell Demon Hunter, even though we're losing our finishers. The deck definitely needs more, it stands to gain a lot over the coming expansions, but right now I don't think Spell Demon Hunter is outright dead the way these other two archetypes sort of feel to me. And before I leave, let's talk about a few theoretical decks that I've been looking at. Coming over to the deck builder, you can see I've been trying to put together a new version of Spell Demon Hunter. For our third minion, it's not going to be a finisher like it used to be. I'm putting in Eye of Shadow because I'm also going to be running the Going Down Swinging card, and this is really helpful for anti-aggro. And since I'm losing stuff like Fel Barrage, I'm getting worse at the aggro matchup, I'm going to greatly appreciate having access to Eye of Shadow Going Down Swinging to try to stabilize when my cards aren't quite getting me there in the early game. And while we do lose good cards, there are good cards we simply weren't running like Spectral Sight as well, and we are getting replacements like Illidari Studies. There's enough left that simply outvaluing your opponent with strong cards like Deal with the Devil and Feldorei Warband, cheating out mana with Relic of Dimensions, it's possible for this deck in my eyes to still win, but it feels much less focused. I don't think that without some sort of meaningful finisher this deck will see play. It's not completely dead, it is left with a functional deck, but it feels much more burn-based about going face with Glaivatar. It feels much more degenerate in that way. I don't know that it's actually good enough in its current state. That remains to be tested. Other decks get worse as well. That's always something worth thinking about. Not every class is Death Knight, most classes are getting worse, so losing your finishers is a hell of a blow. But if you're getting strong cards in addition to that, you might not be dead just yet. And then this is my current Theorycraft for the Rush and Outcast package. In my eyes, the best use for Rush the Stage is to draw a select handful of really powerful minions. So even though something like, where is he? Fierce Outsider, the 2-mana Rush Outcast, your next Outcast card costs 1 less, this is an obvious great fit for the deck. But I don't want to be drawing that off of Rush the Stage. In this deck, the only cards getting hit by Rush the Stage are Snakebite itself, Vengeful Walloper, which is a payoff card, and Illidari Inquisitor, which is our finisher. So it's basically guaranteed to draw us the stuff we're building our deck around, and that's kind of what I want out of it. I don't want a chance of drawing a 1-drop that really doesn't do much. And the goal with the deck is probably just fight for board using stuff like Wrathkill Naga and Snakebite to get crazy value out of all these minion generators. Use Glaivatar, go face a little bit, try to keep yourself stabilized or even winning on board, and then finish off your opponent by cheating out Illidari Inquisitors with your finishing Fell Screamers, just like the old original Demon Hunter decks did. I don't think the deck's incredible. I think it definitely needs more support than it currently has, but I don't look at this and think it's just dead. I do look at this and think it's pretty damn weak to aggro though. This early curve does not counter aggro decks well. And unlike Spell Demon Hunter, it's not like I'm going to Reno Jackson myself on turn 7, I'm probably just going to keep bleeding and die, my only chance is to win the race. But as always with any of these Theorycraft decks before the expansions come out, this is just to show off like the ballpark and then what I'm thinking about when I look at these cards, how I think I would be building it. And before I leave, I will point out Guitar Soloist only has 1 hit, it's the Glaivatar for its weapons, so while it's getting random stuff on minions and spells, it is guaranteed to be getting me something very, very powerful if it's the only thing on my board, and it's very likely that it does end up being the only thing on my board on turn 5. It looks like you don't really start generating big boards until you start having Snakebite combo turns. It's very likely that I'm able to play this on 5 and have it be the only minion on board unless I'm against a pure control deck. In which case, they should have killed my minions, so it should still work out. Anyways, that's all for now. If you enjoyed hearing me ramble about Demon Hunter and how they're going to be changing the upcoming rotation, then please do like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff really does help the channel grow, and I'll see you in the next one.